Overpaying for anything sucks, especially socks, so why pay $45 for a single pair of grip socks when you can spend less than half? Pure Grip Socks Pro feature our best materials for optimal fit, moisture wicking, and performance at a fair price, just $16.99 a pair at puregripsocks.com.
I've said this for a long time, but the Adidas Predator Pulse has been one of the most underappreciated Predator models in its long history. So a couple months ago, when Adidas finally gave us a Predator Pulse Remake, I was obviously very excited, and upon actually getting to try the boots, really impressed with how that football boot has aged. I think it is very wearable by today's standards, and arguably the best Predator Remake to actually play in. There was, however, one issue, and that is the awful colorway that they came in. And I'll admit, they do look a little bit better in person, but in general, several shades of blue with pink accents just isn't my thing. I asked for the same boots in a better colorway, and Adidas has given us just that. Ladies and gentlemen, the Legends Pack Adidas Predator Pulse Remake, seen here in black, gold, and white, with, of course, the EA Sports collaboration, which I assume refers to the Legends Pack cards that you can get in the FIFA video game. Nonetheless, it's a colorway paying tribute to the legends that wore this football boot in the past, and as I've said many times on the channel before, I'm a sucker for black and gold football boots. Oh, and they also retail for $350, which is a lot of money. Which of course begs the question, are they worth it? And I think the answer to that question will very much depend on what you're looking for in a pair of football boots. But if you're a fan of that classic Predator feel and style, I think these might actually be worth the ridiculously high retail price. I talk about why that is in today's video, including how they fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around. And if you are interested in a pair of these limited edition boots for yourself, you can actually get them below their normal retail price by way of some exclusive SR4U coupon codes by checking out the first link down below. Get them before they're gone, because I don't think this is one of those colorways that's gonna stick around for a long time. First things first, the colorway, which is not a remake of an original, although it is very classic Predator in that it's the standard black and white, but instead of your red accent color, they've swapped that out for metallic gold, and I think the end result is something that just looks incredible. They're even better looking in person than they are in the pictures. And nonetheless, it's a predominantly black upper, black for the kangaroo leather, and then kind of a glossy black for the synthetic material that runs through the heel and midfoot. Your Adidas stripes in white, your striking element in white, which really shows off the Predator Pulse design. I'm a big fan of that. Black elasticated strap as well, and then as a metallic gold accent, you can see you have the big leather fold over flap tongue with the Adidas logo embroidered in black. And then if you look on the underside, again, great attention to detail as we're used to seeing on these remakes. You have the embossed Adidas logo, which I really like the look of. Gold for the heel liner, and then the sole plate, of course, shared with the modern Predator Freak, does feature a wearable finish, which of course is gold that eventually fades to white at the tip of the toe. Solid gold, I would argue, would have maybe looked a little bit better, but nonetheless, this is one of those colorways that I think looks absolutely incredible. And as far as the EA Sports callouts are concerned, you're not gonna find anything on the outside of the football boots. All you're gonna find is on the left boot, you have the Predator logo in gold on the insole, and then on the right boot, you can see it does have the EA Sports and Adidas branding. So if you're worried about football boots that have a video game logo on them, there's none that you can actually see when you're wearing the boots. When it comes to fit, feel, and performance, I think you have to consider that the Predator Pulse design, being that the upper is more or less a one-to-one remake of a football boot that came out in 2003, 18 years later, the Predator has changed quite a bit. And I think when it comes to wearing this football boot in 2021, it's very wearable. Honestly, in this incredible colorway and based on how good these fit and feel on feet, I would be happy to wear these over just about anything that's currently available. But I think if you look at something like the modern Predator Freak, whether it's the Plus model that I have here, or even the .1s, both of which are very good, if that's the type of football boot that really appeals to you, then more likely than not, you're gonna put on something like this Predator Pulse Remake and feel like it's a little bit too bulky, a little bit too chunky, and honestly, not really the style of football boots that big brands, Adidas included, are really making anymore. That's not to say that they aren't wearable, because honestly, I love the feel of this boot. And out of all of the Predator remakes that Adidas has done over the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years now, this to me, I think has aged the best in that while it's bulkier than the average football boot that's currently available, I don't think they're overly bulky at all. The kangaroo leather that they've used through the forefoot is incredibly soft, not overly padded, so it does have a feel that I wouldn't say is too chunky. And then of course the rubber Predator elements, it's classic Predator. There's a reason why this became so popular back in the day, and it still feels good in 2021, providing that extra grip and honestly just the sensation when striking the ball that only a Predator can provide. Is it the same level of grip or the same amount of grip as what you're going to find from this modern Predator Freak with its Demon Skin 2.0 spikes? No, there's definitely more grip in this boot on the ball than what you'll find from a classic Predator Pulse. But if you've worn Predators as a kid, if you wore them growing up, this I think has such incredible nostalgia factor about it, and also just feels really good. Adidas have done a really good job of making this football boot in such a way where I think it pays tribute to the original Predator Pulse, but still holds up to today's standards from a quality perspective. So for $350, while it's very expensive, I think you're getting your money's worth in terms of something that does really feel like the OG, but has still actually aged really well. The fold over flap Adidas tongue, obviously not for everybody, but I think it just gives it that classic Predator look. Of course, held down by this elasticated strap. You have that off-centered lacing system with a standard tongue, which makes the shape of this boot actually feel really good. I much prefer the fit and feel and general shape of this Predator model, despite being on the same sole plate as the modern Predator Freak, compared to the Predator Freak. This is a football boot that just has a goofy shape to me. I don't think it works with the prime knit upper that they've gone for here. With the leather and synthetic combo that this football boot has, I just think it fits so much better and feels way more comfortable on your feet. The synthetic through the midfoot, I think, does a good job of adding structure to the upper, which means that despite the upper being predominantly made out of soft kangaroo leather, which is maybe a little bit lacking in structure, the boots don't feel sloppy on your feet and they don't lack responsiveness, which I think is extremely important. The heel area is of course low cut. I think it's a little bit more open and flared than what you're going to find from most other modern football boots, but from a lockdown and comfort perspective, again, I think they've done a very good job. The insole fully removable, I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It features a really soft lining on the surface and it's made from a single layer of black foam, as you'd find on a regular pair of modern Predator Freaks. Which brings us to the base of the boot, where of course you're going to find the modern control frame, sole plate, and stud pattern from the current model Predator Freak, which despite being 18 years newer than what was originally found on the Predator Pulse, I think it actually feels quite similar, and if anything, actually saves a little bit of weight. Of course, it's not the same classic Predator bladed stud pattern like so many of those OG Predators had. I'd love to see Adidas bring that back on a modern Predator model, but for the time being, this stud pattern does get the job done. I don't think it's really a standout sole plate or stud pattern when compared to other football boots on the market, but I don't really think that's the reason why you're buying a Predator Pulse Remake. For the purpose it serves, I think it does a really good job, and I also appreciate the external heel counter, which again is very true to the original Predator Pulse. Which brings us to the weight of the Predator Pulse Remake, where I'd like to expose a little bit of football boot marketing brainwashing that has happened on all of us over the last 18 years. Because I think if you look at these two football boots, especially this being so much newer in terms of the design of the upper, modern, high-tech, seemingly thinner and lighter, you would expect these to weigh significantly more, but that's not actually the case. Both in a size 9.5 US. We'll start off with the Predator Pulse Remake. You can see that they weigh in at 9.2 ounces, the equivalent of 261 grams, which for the record is quite a bit lighter than the original Predator Pulse would have been, mainly because of that sole plate. Remember those numbers, and we'll throw on the modern Predator Freak Plus, and you can see that they weigh in at 9.3 ounces, the equivalent of 264 grams. So, gram for gram, these are 3 grams lighter than the modern Predator Freak, despite featuring an upper that is legitimately 18 years old and made from materials that I guess by modern day standards would be considered to be obsolete. On feet, the Predator Pulse Remake feels as good as it looks. I think there's something to be said about the nostalgia factor when you're talking about a pair of football boots, where for me personally, this really represents the good old days. For somebody that didn't grow up when the Predator Pulse was a current model, I don't necessarily think this is going to have the same wow factor for you, and it's probably not going to be a football boot that you would ever be able to justify paying $350 for. But if you're a fan of classic Predators, specifically the Predator Pulse especially, I think you're absolutely going to love the way that these feel on feet, because they are surprisingly similar to the original that came out 18 years ago and still feel incredibly good on feet. I think the lacing system being off-centered, along with the shape of this boot with this Predator Freak sole plate, just works really well. There's nice structure through the midfoot, great softness and comfort from the kangaroo leather through the forefoot and toe box area. Looking down at your feet and seeing this metallic gold Predator shaped fold over flap tongue is just an incredible sensation, and out of the box comfort in general I think is amazing. I much prefer the fit and feel of this remake versus the modern Predator Freak, be it the Laceless Plus model or the Lace 0.1 variations. These just feel really good to me. As far as width is concerned, because of the more traditional tongue design that they have, they're going to be suitable for most people. They definitely have more width than the modern Predators do. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, I'd have this Predator Pulse Remake over any variation of the current model Predator Freak, whether it's the Plus or the 0.1. Is that going to be the case for everybody based on your own personal preferences? Probably not. I would actually go as far as to say that most people would probably end up preferring the modern day Predator Freak just because it's more along the lines of what you're used to. But if you're a little bit older like myself and you grew up wearing Predator models and you can justify the $350 price tag, I really think this Predator Pulse Remake is the one to have. There have been a lot of great Predator remakes over the last several years, but I really feel like this is the best of the best. And honestly, the Predator Pulse design as a whole has just aged so much better than I think a lot of people would have expected it to. For an 18-year-old football boot, this really does feel phenomenal. Easily one of my favorite football boot releases of 2021.